Requesting connection. Established. Encrypted. We're live. The show you've been asking for. Advice, technology, and community. Linux first, all others second. This is Ask Noah.
Live from Multispeed Technologies, the show that puts you, the listener, in the driver's seat because you are the content. The phone lines are open to be a part of the program. It's a free call. 1-855-450-NOAH. That's 1-855-450-6624. Hey, give me a call. We'll have a conversation about your tech questions or business and tech questions. Linux advocate, above all else, small business owner, and now host of the only radio show centered around you, the listener. Welcome to the Ask Noah Show. My name is Noah Chalaya. Good evening to you all. Delighted to be here. Another episode of the Ask Noah Show kicking off this hour. Ben starts us off from Kentucky. Hey, Ben, welcome to the Ask Noah Show. How can we help?
Oh, Noah. Oh, my God.
That's the sound of a frustrated Linux user right there, folks. That's what that is.
Yes. Oh, my God, man. This Mac, Jesus. It's killing my butt. I gotta tell you. I am so overthrown by OS X. It's a nightmare. Oh,
yep.
Geez.
Yep, it is a clown show of an operating system.
Mac OS is kicking me in the... I'm on high here right now, man. And it's a buggy piece of crap. I gotta tell you. I don't know what the heck Apple is throwing down my throat, but I am just about ready to... It's like, where did they... It's like, dude, where did they come up with this commodity of an OS? I gotta tell you. I want to break free of this hellhole and go to Linux on it, but I tell you, this 2013 brick has high DPI graphics, and it's got dual graphics on top of it, so the Wi-Fi is not an issue because I can plug in a USB dongle and then get the Broadcom thing working. That's not the problem. But the problem is this Intel and NVIDIA corporate nightmare.
Yeah.
That, unless I get those cards working, the power management, my games, everything, it's just not going to work properly.
Yeah.
And on top of that, and every distro I've tried, whether it's Arch, Gentoo, Ubuntu, whatever, every time I activate those stupid NVIDIA graphics, the OS tends to crash and burn, and I have to start all the hell over again.
You have to understand. You have to understand something about how Apple operates. So, Apple does not sell. A lot of people think Apple's in the computer business. They're not. They're not really. They are in the
They're in the phone business.
Well, they're in the experience business. They're not even, the thing about saying that Apple is in the phone business, if Apple was in the phone business, then they would just be making the best phone they could make, and they wouldn't care if you ran iOS on it or if you ran Android on it. They're in the experience business. So what they do is they are trying to sell you an experience, and so for a certain kind of user, Apple products work very well. So if you are a basic user that has very basic needs and you don't mind being, working with one hand tied behind your back, Apple is not necessarily a bad way to go. The problem is what you quickly find out is all of the things. If you want to play with it or you want to dig into it, it's oftentimes it is literally working with one hand tied behind your back, and so unless you have, there's like 2 or 3 pieces of software that are only run on the Apple ecosystem, and basically everything else runs on Windows or Linux. And so the amount of people that are married to the macOS platform are slim. And I would go one step further, Ben, and I would tell you that I personally think that Apple's heart is not in the game of desktop, laptop computers anymore. I would argue if you look at where they're spending their money,
and I can agree with you there. Now,
if you look at where they're spending their money,
watch their keynotes.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. I've seen some of their keynotes lately, dude, and they are sucking. I hate to tell you. Their OSs and their hardware are just getting more and more crap.
Yeah, well...
No offense. They're just getting they're getting worse.
Look at the way that Apple is set up from a company standpoint. Okay, look at who is in charge of Apple. Look at why he's there. Look at what he came to Apple to do. Apple believes that the future of the computing world is tablets. I don't know. Have you seen this latest commercial that Apple is running? Ben, they have this commercial, and it's these kids, and they're sitting there, and they're on their iPads, and they're playing with their iPads, and the mom or the grandpa, the old fuddy-duddy, comes out and says, "Hey kids, stop playing on your computers and come in." And and the kid, he looks up and he cutely says, "What's a computer?" Right? Like, it is painfully obvious to anyone that works in this. Well, yeah. I mean, what it is, Ben, is that their heart is not in the computer game. Their heart is not in the desktop game, and it's not in the laptop game. It is in the experience game, and that experience, where they make their money, where they can sell a good experience, is not on the laptop, and it's not on the desktop. It's on the phone, and it's on the tablet. And I would argue the experience is not that great on an iOS device. I used it for a little bit. It's definitely not for me. But, that's my opinion.
So you can understand why. So you can understand why I want to put Linux on my laptop.
Oh, absolutely. I put Linux on every device I've ever touched. I put Linux on things you're not supposed to put Linux on. So let's break this problem down a little bit, Ben. So you have a what? So let's start with this. So for all of you that are using MacBook, there are two ways to identify your MacBook. The first way, the easiest way, is the year in which you purchased it, and they separate that from the beginning and the end of the year. So
let me answer that question for you. It's a Pro 15-inch late 2013. Now, I bought this used off eBay.
Okay, that's my favorite way to acquire computers. So,
yeah, and it's like I said, it's got an NVIDIA 750M and the Intel integrated graphics, which is a 5500, I think.
Okay.
So I know that, and I've gone on Google, looked up, because I know there's a specific MacBook page for Arch and for Ubuntu, but with Gentoo, which I don't want to put on there because Gentoo takes 9 years to install, as you know. So I'm planning to put something a little bit more sane on there, like maybe Arch or Ubuntu, whatever.
So let me lay this out for everyone just real quickly. Let me just lay this out real quickly. So there are two ways to identify identify which MacBook you have. As Ben said, he's identifying it by the year. Now Apple actually separates that out. So if you say 2013, there is a early 2013 and there is a late 2013 usually. They divide that into two parts. Now the other way, and the way that I prefer to do it, is there is a command you can run, and the command is called DMI decode. And what DMI decode does is it produces the system product name. And to me, that is because the problem with identifying it by the year is it's often simple for people to work, and I think that's why it kind of fits in with the typical Apple user, because it's very simple, very basic, very direct. But if I buy it in March, was it late 2013 or was it early 20? I mean, it's just a weird thing for me. And so using the command DMI decode, and then I believe it's TAC S, and I'll have this command in the show notes, but it's sudo space DMI decode, all one word, all run together, space dash S space system dash product dash name, and that will spit out an actual product name. Now, on like a Dell product, it'll say like XPS 13 or whatever. On the Macs, it will give you a number. So it'll say like 5,1 or 6,1 or 7,1. Now you can use that system product name to get specific information about how to fix problems on your particular model. So we're working with the 2013, and you said the biggest problem that you're having right now is with the display, right?
Yes, the high DPI and the dual graphics. Now, this is an 11,3. I just went into about this Mac.
Yeah. Okay.
It's an 11.
Okay. So let's work through this, Ben. So so let's start with the screen. So this will not work if you're going to use the NVIDIA proprietary graphics. So to get a starting working ground, let's just go ahead and say we're using we're going to use the integrated graphics part. Now, as far as the power management, I don't think you're going to get that to work, to be honest with you. I have known a lot of people that have had MacBooks, and they've not really had any success in getting that power system to work with Apple. And the reason is because that firmware that Apple uses to control that power management controller is specific to Apple. So you can't really emulate that on Linux, and I don't think you're going to have a really easy time getting that to work. But as far as getting the screen to work, that you can do. Now, the easiest way to do that is editing a file that's in your home directory called xbindkey src. And what you can do is you can map...
RC, yeah. I know that file very well, yeah.
Okay, so what you can do is you can map those brightness keys to actually send a specific level of the fluorescent bulb or LED bulb, whatever it is, in the backlight to turn it on and control it that way. And I'm going to have a link for you in the show notes.
It's not the yeah, you can do that, but I'm not talking about the brightness keys. I'm talking about the actual display size, like the DPI is what I'm talking.
Oh, okay. So the way that you fix that, Ben, is what distro are you using?
I was planning on putting Antergos on it, which
desktop environment?
You know,
which desktop environment are you going to use on Antergos?
Well, I know that XFC has god awful high DPI support.
Okay,
it's just not there, and I know they're not planning to bring it out.
I would agree. I wouldn't use XFC. I wouldn't use XFC. So my suggestions would be either GNOME or KDE.
I much prefer KDE.
Okay,
except for the fact customizing it is a pain in the neck.
It is. It's a little bit frustrating. But here's what you would do. Inside of KDE, you can there is actually a setting for what they call scaling your display. And so what that does is it effectively doubles the pixels together. And there is a magic place to get for high DPI. And I'm actually, the person to ask about that is actually Chris. And so I will get that exact setting for you. I'll have that in the show notes. There's two things you have to change in KDE. One is that scaling factor. The second thing you want to change, Ben, is the fonts. And if you change those two things, that MacBook is going to look absolutely stellar.
Yes, and I actually have a local Linux users group that has a monthly meetup, and I'm actually thinking of taking this MacBook and wiping OS X off the thing.
Yeah.
And putting just Antergos on it, and they were probably going to be like, holy shit.
Yeah, no, that would be absolutely fantastic.
Well, either way, I'll watch this back later, and I'll look at the show notes, and I'll be sure to apply those settings that you're talking about for the brightness and the screen.
Yep. Yeah. Take a look at that. Tell me what you think, and then give me a call back and let me know how that works, Ben. Because I get a lot of people that you're not the only one that's using a MacBook, and certainly there are a couple different things that you have to tweak. Like you said, the Broadcom thing sounds like you have your hands on that. If anyone isn't familiar with that, simply plugging in a wired Ethernet connection or using a USB dongle, Wi-Fi dongle, will let you get on to the internet, and then that way you can actually update and install the Broadcom drivers, which is actually a pretty straightforward thing to do, and I'll have a link for that as well in the show notes. Chaz is calling from New York. Hey, Chaz, welcome to the Ask Noah Show.
Hey, Noah, how's it going?
Excellent. How are you?
Pretty good. I would be very interested to hear your conspiracy theories about why Signal and Telegram went down earlier this week.
Oh, the government, the U.S. government was shutting it down because of terrorism.
That sounds about right.
I'm kidding.
On a more serious note, though.
I'm kidding. No, so for those of you that don't know what he's talking about, both Telegram and Signal had an outage this week. I actually didn't notice this. Telegram was, I think for Telegram, if I'm not mistaken, it was Europe and the Middle East, right? Oh, I just
on Tech Tips today.
Yeah, I just Googled it. Telegram was inaccessible in Europe, Middle East, and North Africa, while Signal was down for hours in Europe, US, Asia, and Australia. Okay. So yeah, that would be why I didn't experience the Telegram outage. But when you have a messaging service that spans the entire world, you got people all over the place. I mean, I suppose you are going to have a couple outages, right?
Yeah. I suppose it was inevitable. My question on that note is, though, we live in a world where, people don't want to be responsible for their own security, their own safety, their own privacy, and they look at you like you're crazy when you tell them, well, you should be using an encrypted messaging application.
Yeah.
So my question is, how do you convince people that, they should want to be proactive about this stuff and not entrust, put all their trust in some separate entity that may or may not have their best interest at heart, whether it be government or corporation or what have you?
Yeah. So honestly, I have not had a lot of luck in convincing people on a philosophical level. People like you, people who care, listeners of the show, obviously very much so. I mean, they care. They want to hear, and they base their decision off of rational logic. And I can talk somebody's like that. I can talk that person's ear off. I don't have a lot of luck talking to the average Joe about caring about security, caring about, this. And so what I have done, and actually I've talked to Chris about this, and he says that he's had a lot of luck doing the same thing. You sell it on the convenience point, right? So I'll give you an example. My cousin was here in town. He's visiting from Seattle. And we were going out for lunch, and I just told him, I said, hey, Mike, he was texting me, and we had this group text thing going on. I'm like, listen, dude, we can keep doing this if you want. That's cool. But I would recommend, our family is using this particular app, and you just download this app, and it's kind of like our family app, and that's kind of how we all communicate. Now, my mother's on it, my sister's on it, obviously my wife's on it, my kids are even on it. And so I said, you just download this app, and then we can communicate that way. And he did, and he was like, yeah, sure, I'll give that a shot. And then, of course, it morphed out. Then his kids became interested in. They wanted to be included in the group, and so it has what Chris would call the network effect, and you start bringing people in, and it's very much gotten to the point now where I have plenty of friends that are like basically anyone I talk to on a even semi-regular basis is on Telegram. In fact, just the other day, I was having a discussion with another podcaster, and he reached out to me and he said, hey, I am trying to get a hold of this guy, and I've tried emailing him, and I have tried calling him, and I've tried, on his website. I can't seem to get a hold of this guy. Do you know him? Could you put us in touch? Because I want to interview him for my show. And it just so happens that the guy he was looking for is on Telegram, and he was asking me this on Telegram. And so I just reached out to the guy that the guy that he was talking about. We talk all the time. And so I reached out to him and said, hey, there's this other podcaster. He wants to interview you. Would you be willing to go on a show? And while you're at it, could you come on the Ask Noah show? And he said, yeah, I'd love to do both. And so in about 5 minutes, I was like, well, here's this guy's username. Just go ahead and ping him, and you guys, work it out and set it up. And he sent me a message today, and he's like, yeah, thanks. We got it all set up, and everything's great. That kind of network power of just everyone being on that ecosystem is huge, and you can use that to show other people things. So you find the person you want to get on, you find maybe yourself and somebody else that they might be interested in talking about. And every time you do that, it gets easier and easier because there's more people that the next person might want to connect with, right? That's what I found to be the most effective.
Yeah, it definitely makes sense. And I've done that to an extent as well. I just seem to have more luck with that with WhatsApp, because it seems like WhatsApp is more accepted, whereas when I bring up Signal, they kind of look at me funny. But the joke's on them because WhatsApp uses the same encryption as Signal. So
yeah, yeah. I mean, honestly, the truth is, I mean, if I'm being completely honest with you, Chaz, the truth is that the reason I got onto Telegram was because Jupiter Broadcasting got on Telegram. The reason that I left Viber was because Jupiter Broadcasting left Viber. The thing I used before Viber was, what did we use before? I think just IRC. I think it was just, we had a special chat in IRC. And so I guess what I'm saying is that I followed the network effect to a certain degree. I just kind of went where other people went. Now, to be fair, I've gotten to a point where so many people, so many of my friends, so many people in the Linux world, so many communities exist on Telegram that I am not going away from it anytime soon. And so as some of these new technologies come out, like Discord and so on and so forth, I haven't continued to follow on because I kind of, Telegram just works, and it's so prolific, and it's available on Windows, it's available on Mac, it's available on Linux, it's available on a web browser, it's available on Android, iOS. I mean, you name it, there's a Telegram app. The Ubuntu phone. I remember that I was at a conference, and the guy was telling me, yeah, we don't really have navigation worked out, but we have a Telegram app. Like, I mean, it's just everywhere. And so that kind of ubiquitous communication is a huge selling point. And I think WhatsApp has most of those. Do they have a Linux client, though?
They have a desktop scan this QR code and you can put the WhatsApp interface onto Chrome type deal. And if I'm not mistaken, there's a more traditional desktop app in the works. But whether or not it comes to Linux is, I'm not sure. Hang on, I'll DuckDuckGo it.
One of the things I do on pretty much a daily basis is I will take, I'm working on a screen and I will, and this is like really slick. If you're not familiar with this on Plasma, this is really fantastic. So the screen capture utility on Plasma remembers whatever the last mode you used was. So for example, capture the full screen, all monitors, capture just the current screen, the active window, the window that my cursor is over, or a rectangular region. I have so many things up on my screen. There's never, I won't say never, there's almost never a time I'd want to send somebody my entire desktop, but there are multiple times I want to show them a part of my desktop. And so the thing that I almost always use is the rectangular region. Well, KDE remembers that last thing that I did was the rectangular region. So when I hit the print screen button, instead of just taking a picture of the entire desktop, it pops up a dialog, automatically chooses the last thing I chose, which is rectangular region. And then I can click on the take new screenshot. I can drag my cursor and select the area I want to pick, press enter, and now that screenshot is captured to my clipboard, and I can just well, actually, I take that back. I think you have to click the button, copy to clipboard, and then it's in my clipboard. I can open up Telegram and just Control V and paste that in there. Now, why am I outlining that entire procedure? Because I do that 15 times a day, and the advantage of having a native desktop app is that kind of integration with the clipboard and stuff works. And I question if it's just a Chrome add-on, if it's going to have that same level of integration, or if I drag like a video file into the Telegram app. Just this morning, I drug a video in and it asked me, do you want to send this as a file, full raw thing, or do you want me to re-encode it into like a Telegram video and so the user can just click play and it plays right inside of the app? That's the kind of integration you get when you're using an actual native app, and you don't get that on like if it's just a Chrome add-on kind of a thing. So, hey Chaz, I was going to ask you.
Yeah, it's definitely.
I was going to ask you if I could ask for a small favor, and I'm going to talk about this more at the end of the show. Would you are one of the callers that you're one of the first callers that ever called this show, and you've always asked really interesting and intriguing questions, things that I think apply to a large range of the audience, and we're extremely grateful to have you as a listener. I was wondering, would you be willing to, we are putting together a montage for a celebration of our 1 year on air, which is coming up on April 3rd. Would you be willing to record some sort of thing that says, hey, congratulations on 1 year. I'm Chaz from New York, and thank, something like that, and send that in to us, or just even call when we're not on the air and just leave it on a voicemail?
Yeah, absolutely.
I would really appreciate that. So I'll go ahead and put you, I guess there's really nothing we need to grab from you, but yeah, if you could do that, I would appreciate that. And I guess I was going to talk about this at the end of the episode, but I guess we'll just talk about it now. Our 1 year anniversary is coming up. Now, interestingly enough, the way that the calendar system works, we went on the air April 3rd of 2016, 2016. We went on the air April 3rd of 2017, and I was so excited, and I had taken weeks off of work up to that time to actually launch the show. And so the first night that we turned on the microphone and went on the air, it was a really exhilarating experience. And those of you that have listened to this show and stuck with us for the year, I really appreciate you. And if you ask anyone that's around me that talks to me on a daily basis, they will tell you that lately, I have been putting everything I can into researching how to make the show better. What is it that people don't like about the show? What do we need to change? Now, there are some things from just a production standpoint, the way that the show is produced, that we have to change, music assets, so on and so forth. And we have worked with industry experts to handcraft solutions that are custom made specifically for this show to make it sound better than ever. And we've put a lot of money into a studio environment because we plan to be on the air and plan to be a resource forever. And one of the most valuable things that you have done as a listener is you have gone to asknoahshow.com/better, and you've told me, I hate this, I like this. And both of those things are equally valuable. And it has been so helpful to be able to sit down and go through and say, these are what the viewers like and these are what the viewers don't like. And we are constantly making improvements, and we're going to roll a bunch of those out on April 3rd. Because as I was saying before I interrupted and derailed my own thought train, because we shifted days, we started on Mondays at 6 p.m. Central. Now the show airs live on Tuesdays at 6 p.m. Central. Because we changed, the anniversary of our episode is actually going to fall on the exact same day that we first went online. So first episode of Ask Noah Show aired April 3rd of 2017. The 1-year anniversary episode is going to air on April 3rd of 2018. And so tentatively what we're planning on doing is there's a couple people down in the Twin Cities area that have said, we would love to meet up with you and hang out. And so we are tentatively planning a small little meetup in the Minneapolis area. And we're going to go down there and we're going to have a big celebration. We'll provide dinner for people that come, and we'll do the show live with other people, and anyone that attends is welcome to come on the air with me and say hello or ask a question or whatever, and we'll just have a good time. And we're collecting feedback up to that point, and we're going to make a bunch of changes based on that feedback. And one of the things that we thought would be cool is we're going to take a montage and as we make those changes and put a collage or a montage of comments about the show. So if you have a comment about the show, the best thing you could do is record it in FLAC and send it to us. But if you don't have the capability or time to do that, just call the on-air line 1-855-450-6624 sometime when we're not on the air. And there's a little message that plays that says like press 1 to leave a message or something like that. Just leave us a voicemail with whatever your contribution or whatever it is you'd like to say, and we'll include that in our 1-year anniversary episode. Again, open phones this hour, 1-855-450-NOAH. That's 1-855-450-6624. The email live at AskNoahShow.com. Make your voice heard, become a part of the program. So last week, I had a question. And the question was, what laptop can I buy that doesn't have an integrated graphics card, but has more than 16 gigs of memory? Now, I have to be honest. I am not a perfect talk show host. In fact, I said day one, I'm like, this is not my profession. I don't do this professionally. I'm just here to help people and answer people's Linux questions. And if it happens to be a good show, it happens to be a good show. Well, last week, I was so excited about my friend and boss who is launching his new show, Tech Talk Today, which you can listen to at techtalk.today. Which would be a really fantastic place if you wanted to learn more about the Telegram outage. I think he talked about that this week. So check that out, techtalk.today. But I was so excited to get him on the air, and I knew he was standing by that I rushed the phone calls. And that was a huge mistake on my part, and a huge apology to those of you who called in right at the front of the hour. I'm so sorry I didn't give enough attention to your questions. And as I rightly deserved, a lot of people, once I got off air, let me know, hey, you really screwed up that first segment. And I'm not too good to come here and admit I screwed up. I made a mistake. And I'm sorry, and I want to do a make good. So there are 2 laptops that are glaringly obvious choices that I should have known right off the top of the bat as a self-proclaimed Linux expert, and I didn't, but I have them here now. The first, obviously, is the System 76 Galago. It is an ultra-portable 13-inch computer. It has up to 32 gigabytes of memory and does not have dedicated graphics. It also happens to be backed by a company who has a passion for Linux. Now, I have been to this company. I have seen what they do. I have worked right alongside them as they're doing these work. These are people, they're not in business to sell computers. They're in business to empower Linux users, and the way they fund that endeavor is by making computers that run Linux. So if you want a company that is dedicated to Linux, makes a really awesome product that runs Linux, then System 76 and the Galago will meet all of the specifications that user was asking for. And I happen to know, having spoken to people at System 76, they custom make a lot of these computers specifically with the developer, market in mind. The second computer that would fit your needs, and I think I did touch on this, but it wasn't listed on Lenovo's site, so I kind of wrote myself off and kind of second-guessed myself, is the ThinkPad T580, also available with 32 gigs of RAM. Now, where the ThinkPad falls down is compared to the System 76. The ThinkPad is not a Linux-made machine. It just so happens that Red Hat, the largest company in the United States, the largest provider of Linux in the United States, happens to run all ThinkPads, and they have never had a problem that I know of. I am sitting right in front of my X270, and I absolutely love it, and I'm looking at upgrading to another ThinkPad. So it's a great computer, and if you install Linux, I have zero doubts that it will work right out of the box for you. However, understand that Lenovo themselves does not care about Linux and has no commitment to Linux. If it happens to work, it works, and if it doesn't work, they're going to tell you should be running Windows. So there's that. But if you need a computer that has a traditional docking station, If you need a computer that has a, if you need one that, so for example, you can have at an outlet store or something like that, and you want to go see it and play with it, ThinkPad offers those things. System 76 does not. You can only order a System 76 computer online. There are no System 76 stores. And as far as I'm aware, there's a partnership program, but there are no resellers that like stock System 76 products. So if you want to put your hands on something, and that's an important thing to do, with a purchase that big and with as picky as some people are about their computers, that's something to consider. But both of those options, the ThinkPad T580 or the System 76 Galago, both would be fantastic computers for what you're looking to do. Run some VMs, run some a bunch of different development things in an environment where you need to have a lot of I guess RAM is really what he was concerned about. Chat room JJ4884 is asking, do they still allow regular Ubuntu? At the moment, I believe they do. I think going forward, they are only going to run Pop OS. Although I will tell you, now I have a great relationship with System 76. I have a lot of friends there, and so up until now, everything I said, they would nod their head and go, "Yep, everything you just said is correct." But at this point, I'm going on my own opinion is, I don't think that is a sustainable thing to just do Pop OS. I think they're going to have to continue to maintain Ubuntu proper, because I think that there is going to be a market for it, and knowing System 76, they will do what they have to do to meet the needs of those Linux users. So that's conjecture on my part. I have nothing to back that up. I've not heard that from System 76. I do not think that's their official stance. That's just what Noah thinks. So take it for what it's worth. The advice is worth what you pay for on this program. 1-855-450-NOAH. That's 1-855-450-6624. The email, live@asknoahshow.com. Make your voice heard. Become a part of the program. I do see somebody sitting in the caller queue, but I don't have any information on them. I'm not sure if they're just chatting down there or if that guy's coming up. But I'll come back to you in a couple seconds here. 2018 has been an interesting year so far. I was at my office and I was having meetings last week about where we're going as a company, what we're doing as a company, where the market forces are, and what we need to be doing to addressing those forces. And what I found was we have set up more instances of OwnCloud, C-File, FreePBX. And if I was to take all of the categories out of what we do, hardware installation, hardware maintenance, this, that, and the other, the number one thing we have made money on in 2018 is installation, support, and upgrade and servicing of self-hosted services. In fact, we've done so much work on OwnCloud and Nextcloud specifically that we now have a dedicated guy at Altispeed that his only function in life is to sit and upgrade and migrate Nextcloud instances all day. And we've actually come up with this elaborate system where you as a user come to us and you say, I have a OwnCloud or Nextcloud instance and I want it upgraded. And he will go ahead and send you instructions, and as long as it's hosted on DigitalOcean, this works anyway, he can make a little emailable link, and you can email us the link, we can take your droplet, upgrade it, and then send it back to you, and then you can decide when you want to put it into production. We have this stuff down to a fine science. And I don't think that, as long as I don't use his name, I don't think he'll mind me sharing this story on the air. But we were contacted by a gentleman, and he said, I want you to upgrade our Nextcloud instance. Okay, no problem. We do it all the time. Here's what it costs. And he looks at it. He's like, holy cow, that's expensive. That's kind of pricey, isn't it? And I'm like, you get what you pay for. But he goes, well, couldn't I get it done cheaper? I'm like, yeah, I'm sure. Not here, though. He's like, all right. So he goes. He decides not to use this. A couple days later, he emails me back, and he's like, yeah, I sat down to do this upgrade or to do this migration. Wow, I don't remember exactly what it was. Now I understand why it is you charge what you charge. I'll go ahead and pay it. So and then it all worked out. So it's not free, but I think we do a good job. So if that's something that's interesting, you can reach out to customer care 1-866-280-1433 or email support@altispeed.com. Now, I've watched enough invoices go out the door that I know that this is a hot button issue and one that the Ask Noah show needs to be in front of, because if you're listening to this show, then you are part of the group who wants to own their technology. You don't just want a rent-a-computer for your data services. And I wouldn't go so far as to say that the world is shifting away from cloud computing, but there's unquestionably a market of business owners who are getting nervous at storing their data on the cloud. And it has become clear to me that it makes for good show content, right? Because the world is quickly dividing into two camps: those who want a computer subscription service and those who want to own their own technology. Now, I'm not whining about it either way. Like, because here's the thing. I am happy. I am thankful that there are people in the world that want companies like Altispeed to set up the whole kit and caboodle. Our hosted C-File subscriptions are going boom, boom. Like, the numbers are nuts. And that's why I say there are definitely two camps. Because, we dress it up. We brand it. There's a bunch of marketing babble in there because, at the end of the day, we're cheaper than Dropbox. You have the private keys to your data, not us, unlike Dropbox. And frankly, it's just more robust infrastructure and software than Dropbox. And so with the ability to talk to other local servers, with the ability to sync up to a cloud server, to subscribe to libraries and not others, et cetera, all of that stuff, it's all great. Under the hood, it's all just C-File, though. And as I sat back last week going over numbers and going over closed tickets, I started to see that there are projects that our customers find very valuable. And if I can make a healthy living off of selling installation support and maintenance and giving all of that away for free on the Ask Noah show is probably, makes for a really good show and something you guys would be interested in. But before I go on, I want to hear from you guys. What self-hosted services do you use most often? What do you guys think is most helpful? What would you want to see running on your home, or what do you run on your home server? Let me know. 1-855-450-NO. That's 855-450-6624. The email, live@asknoahshow.com. I want to go to our mumble room. Mr. JJ, hey, are you with us?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
I can. How's it going, sir?
Pretty good. Yourself?
I'm doing all right.
So I sort of have a quick question for you with regards to the Windows subsystem for Linux. And now that they announced that Kali Linux and Debian are available from the Windows Store to be used on the Windows subsystem for Linux, so what would you say this sort of workaround to implement Linux on Windows, how do you think this will impact Linux installs? I know we talked about it a bit on Linux Unplugged today, but I wanted to get your opinion as the diehard Linux person that you are.
My take on it is that the Microsoft we fight today is very different from the Microsoft we fought yesterday. And that should concern a lot of Linux users, because Microsoft is making very, very smart decisions about trying to integrate Linux into Windows. They're taking the best parts of Linux and making them available on Windows. Now, there is one big card that Microsoft never shows you, because if you look at a playing card from the front, it looks like it looks great, and from the back, it looks great. It's only when you turn the card on its side that you see that the card is rail thin, and that's what Microsoft doesn't tell you. And what that is, the missing piece here is the Windows brand sucks, and the Windows brand is tainted, and they are not. Until they fix that problem, I don't think they are going to be able to turn the ship around. I don't meet people, other than a handful of people, I don't meet people that are super excited about the next release of Windows. I don't meet people at conferences that say, even not Linux conferences, even regular, just industry conferences. I don't meet people that are like, yeah, I'm on the next 16 whatever of the release of Windows 10. In fact, I've been spending a lot of time at radio stations as I go around traveling to and I stop in at a radio station, whatever city I'm in, to do my show. And I see a lot of Linux. Like, the radio industry might be one of the most heavily Linux dominated industry on the desktop that I haven't personally been a part of to change, they naturally do it. And when I talk to these broadcast engineers about, man, I see you running Linux there, that's kind of interesting, they tell me the same thing all the time. Yeah, well, we tried it on Windows 10, but it did a reboot, or it played some pop-up noise while we were on air. We can't have that. And, we bought this Linux system, and it runs great. It's been running for years, and it's had no problems. And Linux has done some things in the underpinning to allow the audio drivers to talk over the network. And so we broadcast engineers love that because it keeps audio very, very clean. And so once you learn how to set that up, it's like a total game changer. Then it's very...
And on a similar note, Chrome, there's been announcements that Chrome might be able to run Linux apps on with this thing called Crostini, if you've heard about that story.
Yep. The reason I haven't been over the top on that is because if you think about the kind of person that buys a Chromebook, they're not looking to push that thing to the limits, and if they did, they'd be sorely disappointed. That's the person that wants to check their email, browse the internet, write a couple letters, that kind of thing, right? And to be fair, that was a Mac market for a long, long time, and so Chromebooks kind of fit fit that edge. So if you had something that really needed Mac OS, now you're going to Mac OS. If you didn't, then you're sticking with the Chromebook. And I think that's a good thing for the industry. But, you know, and Chris and I were talking about this last week. And we were talking about the fact that Microsoft is restructuring Hyper-V and the Hyper-V market so that you can just download an Ubuntu installation. I got to tell you, unless you've used Hyper-V on a daily basis for production work, you don't understand how bad it is. And it's not until you use Hyper-V in a production environment and then use something like VMware or libvirt or Overt right next to it, and then you really understand how terrible it is and how many better options there are. And so I think that there are a number of threats to Linux. That isn't one of them. I think that the fact that they are quickly becoming hip to the idea that penetration testers, security experts, they want Kali Linux. And for a day-to-day office environment, they are willing to run Windows, but then they are booting into a specific distro to do penetration testing. I think that is absolutely indicative of a threat to Linux.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Yeah. Again, phone lines 1-855-450-NOAH. That's 855-450-6624. The email live at AskNoahShow.com. Now, if there was one tool that I couldn't live without at this point, it would undoubtedly be C-File. If you're not familiar with C-File, it is a file synchronization tool, not unlike Nextcloud or OwnCloud, but C-File, much like Dropbox, is specifically designed from the ground up to be a world-class file synchronization tool. Now, unlike Dropbox, which syncs your entire drive or allows you to deselect specific files you don't want to sync, C-File uses something called libraries. Now, a library is nothing more than a collection of files or folders. And you can tell C-File, when I share this library, these are the files and folders I want you to share. Now, that's particularly advantageous to users like me who wear a multitude of hats, because I live in a multitude of different worlds throughout the week. At home, I'm a father, I'm a husband. At work, I'm a business owner, I'm a business operator. I also work in the field from time to time, and on Tuesdays, I'm a talk radio host. So on the machine that sits here in the studio that I'm working on today, I need it to sync all of my show prep files. But I don't want any of the recordings that go out on the broadcast machine. On the broadcast machine, I want all of the recordings to sync, but I don't need any of the show preps. But I also need the broadcast assets. On my laptop, I want everything. I want my show prep. I want my broadcast assets. I want the recordings. I want everything and anything. So at a moment's notice, that's just available to me. I also have a machine that's in our rack that is tied to Dropbox, so Rakai can get the files once the recording's finished. And so I need C-File to sync all of the recordings with that box, and then I want them to put the recordings in the Dropbox folder so they go to him, and I want all the rest of the files, the show prep, the broadcast assets, all of that, the prep files, all of that, I want it to sync to a second folder. And as far as I know, there's no way to get that kind of granular control in Dropbox, but it's very easy to do inside of C-File. And there's somebody out there right now that's going, no, I don't host the Ask Noah Show, so I don't have any of those kinds of needs. But you have a personal life, right? And you have a work life, and you may not want your personal file showing up on your work machine. Vice versa, you may not want your work file showing up on your personal machine. Libraries are a great way to have a single username and password to get both the server, to get both one server and one software package. You install it, you log in, and all of a sudden you can have access to all of the files that you might need. And of course, at any time, you can drag and drop a folder into the C-File client, and C-File will automatically, without moving the files on your file system, which is not the case in Dropbox, which is not the case in Google Drive. But in C-File, I can drag any file anywhere on my system into the C-File client, and it will generate a new library. And so there have been plenty of times I'm building out a project for a client, and I get done, and I just drag it into C-File. It spits out a share link. I email that link, and I shut my laptop, and I'm done because it's already synced up to the server, and so now they can pull that file down whenever they have time. System restoration, similarly, very easy on my systems. In KDE, it's all about configs. As a Neon user, I log into my C-File client, I sync my KDE library. My desktop is now my desktop. Absolutely fantastic zero compromise software, and I have pushed this to its limits. I have tried to get C-File to screw up. I have synced up to, I think, 15 gigs of video files. I have it on, at this point, 15 machines, 16 machines of mine. I have machines that are getting reinstalled halfway through syncing. I have machines that I have accidentally moved folders and had to move them back. I mean, there isn't a problem I haven't tried to create for C-File, and it handles it like a champ. And the worst you ever get is you'll get a thing that's called .conflict, and it'll say, well, you had two files that were modified before they talked to the server, and so I just put them both in here, and you decide which one you want. Done. I mean, easy. And I'll tell you something else that I really respect about the C-File developer. This guy, when I first started playing with C-File and I had a question or how something worked or where the log files were, I would ask a question, and there's this one guy that keeps answering all the questions. I mean, like, in every form across the internet, there's this one guy. Come to find out, he's the lead developer. He's the one that designed C-File. And he's very open and straightforward about the encryption mechanisms and how he's protecting your data and what you need to do to fully protect your data from the government and other people. I mean, it's just, I don't have enough good things to say about C-File. It's that great it's that great of software. If there's one piece of software I had to have to live my life, undoubtedly C-File. So check that out. We're going to go talk about more software that you can self-host, software that will change your life as this here show continues. Right now, we're headed to the phones at 1-855-450-NOAH. That's 1-855-450-6624. Or email us live at AskNoahShow.com. That's how you join the program, make your voice heard. Timothy from Virginia. Hey, Timothy. Welcome to the Ask Noah Show.
Hi, I'm hoping you can help me de-Googlefy my music. I've been using the Google Music Unlimited streaming stuff, but I've been buying my music again because I like the higher quality. And I'm trying to find a solution that lets me upload my library without relying on Google. Google lets me upload 1,000 songs, but they compress it and make it sound crappy. What is a good method for me to have a nice web interface so I can access it at multiple computers and self-host it myself so I can have my own music? And I have multiple files, have OGG, MP3, sadly for some of the music, and FLAC. So I also needed to be able to support all those codecs.
I don't suppose it's all the computers you want to access happen to be on the same LAN, do they?
Well, that's the thing, is I'm also on the go a lot, so I want to be able to stream it from my phone too, if possible.
Yeah.
And my library is quite large. It won't fit on my phone.
Man, well, I have I don't know if this is the best solution. It's a creative solution. It'll solve your problem. But, you know, what I would say, if you told me it was on the LAN, obviously we talked about Volumio, which is a fantastic project and would do all of that, except, you know, you'd have to have it on a LAN. Now, I suppose if you wanted to get super involved, you could set up a VPN, because even streaming a WAV file across the internet these days, as long as you have decent bandwidth, is doable. We do it multiple times a month for this show. But I would say, for what you described, what I would probably do, Timothy, is I would set up Plex. Now, Plex is typically designed for video, but one of the things that I have done is I had a show that I listened to, one of my favorite shows to listen to. It's only available on SiriusXM, and I record it using a special setup Linux box that I put together with a series of scripts that records and encodes the file for me. But to get that file down to my phone so I can play it anywhere, stream it anywhere, or make a copy of it anywhere, I am using Plex to do that. And it's not perfect, but it has the basic functionality. You can do, you know, shuffle and repeat and stuff like that. Is that an option for you, or is that you're like, that just...
Well, I tried that, and the problem I ran into is I like to listen to a lot of independent artists, so even when I was using these girls streaming, I had to always upload my own copies, because I buy all this stuff on Bandcamp and whatnot. And I even paid for the Plus subscription, and it started messing up all of the metadata.
Oh, no.
And, like, artist information was all messed up, and it was just horrible.
Yeah, that's no good. Yeah, you must have a large library, because, I was just thinking about it. The free Google thing is huge. You don't have an Amazon Prime subscription, do you?
Yes, I do.
Doesn't Amazon, and I'm just going out on a limb here, I don't know for sure, but doesn't Amazon Prime allow you to...
I have tried what you're recommending. I have tried it, and I paid for the whole year up front. But the problem is the Linux capability is horrible, because it's in Flash.
Sure.
And they don't have a desktop client for Linux.
Man.
But it's great, though. But that's
when it works.
Dilemma is I hate Flash.
Yeah, I'm trying to think...
I was wondering if you knew anything about the method, some of the open source ones I saw. Like, the big one I saw was something called Ampash or Amcache, and then something called Subsonic. Yeah, if you knew anything about those, because those seem to be more music focused.
Unfortunately, I don't. Here's what I'm going to do. Let me do this. Let me jump into the Mumble Room. Hey, Mumble Room, I don't suppose any of you guys are aware of any software. I know, Eric, you play around in the audio world quite a bit. Have you come across anything that might help Timothy out?
So just repeat the question. What was that again?
Is there any sort of free Libra software that you could use for music streaming your own library? We talked about Google Play. We talked about Amazon. Neither one of those are really an option for a variety of reasons. He's tried Plex. That's not really working for him. Do you have an idea of something he could use as a free open source software to stream music?
The only thing I can think of that just kind of came off the top of my head was FreeNAS. And that's a BSD derivative.
Yeah, and FreeNAS isn't really going to stream music. My call screener tells me that you had not played with C-File before, and so that's something you're looking at?
Well, I've used C-File before, and it's great. It's just I'm still stuck in a contract for a few more months, and I have an iPhone, and the C-File client on iPhone sucks.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Well, I tell you what I can do, Timothy. I'm sorry I don't have a better answer for you off the top. I mean, what you sound like you have tried everything I would have considered trying. So what I will do is I'll keep it open. And here's the thing. I got off the air last week, Timothy, and like a bunch of people were like, "Here's the answer you couldn't answer. You're an idiot. This is the simple answer, and this is what you had to tell the guy." That might very well happen. There's probably some like perfect project for you, and I just don't know what that is off the top of my head. So I keep an eye on the show notes. If somebody reaches out to me, I will put that information there and I'll have it available to you. And I'm sorry we don't have a better answer for you right now. Adam from Vancouver asks, didn't you try that Raspberry thing? The Raspberry thing is called Volumio, and Volumio is great and would do everything he wants it to do, except it has to be on the LAN. So not quite perfect. Again, phones 1-855-450-NOAH. That's 1-855-450-6624. The email live@asknoahshow.com. Now, if I could have a second program that I couldn't live without, it would undoubtedly be a program called SimpleHelp. Now, we've talked about SimpleHelp on an episode of the Linux Action Show, but I don't think we've covered it here on the Ask Noah Show. And that's because I don't know why that is really. We really should have. But it is unquestionably the best remote desktop software out there. Now, if you just want to see your desktop, there are free versions of TeamViewer. There's XRDP, which is very common in the enterprise environment. In fact, I'd say it's the de facto standard for remote desktop on Linux in the enterprise environment. There's VNC, which is brain dead simple to set up, but it's not very performant and there are some limitations. We'll get to that in a moment. And of course, there's X2Go, which is probably the best performing native remote desktop software you can get, but it also has some drawbacks. Now, the problems with every one of these solutions, like other than SimpleHelp, is XRDP, first of all, is a chore to set up. And once you have it set up, it works great, but it's still, there are desktop environments it doesn't work with. So, for example, Unity doesn't work. If you have people that are remoting into a Linux box, though, from a Windows box particularly, it's a really great choice because they can use the built-in Windows RDP viewer. VNC is great, but again, performance is terrible, and it's fine if you're just remote troubleshooting something, but it's abysmal if you have to work on a machine for any prolonged period of time, or if you have to deal with something that's time-sensitive like broadcast production. X2Go is a fantastic choice for performance, but again, it establishes its own new connection under a new user, so you can't remote into your own machine and work on what you were working on locally. The entire session has to be remote. So it's fantastic if you want to have a workstation in the cloud, so to speak. Not so great if you just want to log into your existing workstation and look at that file that you were typing or whatever. I've also had issues with GNOME as well as Unity, so personally, if I'm using X2Go, I'm using Mate. By the way, Timothy, PTO in the chat room says Tonito. So we're going to look into that, and if I'll play with it after I get off the air, and if it's a solution for you, I'll definitely give you a further write-up. Now, TeamViewer is kind of a go-to for a lot of people, and honestly, the performance and flexibility is fantastic with TeamViewer. Now, there's just two minor problems with TeamViewer. First is the tremendous cost. It is expensive. And if you think you can get away with just the personal use forever, if you establish too many connections within a 24-hour period to the same box, I can tell you from firsthand experience, even if it actually is a personal box, they will flag it as suspected commercial use and they'll shut your connections down. You won't be able to TeamViewer into your box. And the second thing is it's really only designed for remote access. It's not really designed for remote management. And that's fine if you're helping mom change her background. Not so great if you're trying to manage multiple businesses that are like 700 or 800 miles away. Simple Help addresses all of those because it's literally a full management suite. All of their software works on Linux, Mac, and Windows, and so you have full access to every platform. It's self-hosted, so you don't have to worry about the service going down, and you can add multiple Simple Help servers for redundancy. So you can tell the clients, always associate to these two servers. If any one of them goes down, automatically switch over to the second one. The other thing it allows you to do is Chris DeLuca, he owns CDC Computer Consulting out in West Virginia, and I own Altispeed Technologies. Now, we have a couple of machines that I have added to his Simple Help server, like a couple of clients, and I've gone in there and just said, also register to this Simple Help server so that he can access those machines as well. So it's really great for interoperability. Simple Help will work its way around almost any firewall system that we have come across. And that's also true mostly at the time for TeamViewer, although I've had more luck with Simple Help than TeamViewer if it's really, really locked down. Simple Help can be run one of two ways. The first way is the live support version, which you double-click on, the user runs, and it gives you access to the machine and removes all traces except for that initial run file, which you can then delete after the session is over. The agent version, or the unattended version, is a installation. It installs something to the computer, but it allows for unattended access to the machine. Now, our lead-in on the JB side of this program is Linux Unplugged, and one of the discussions they were having was, Chris was saying, man, I really wish I had TeamViewer access, but I don't want it to ask for a password because I didn't remember what that thing is or whatever. And the truth is, you can't actually do that on TeamViewer. You can't actually tell it that you don't want a password. You can specify a static password to use with that partner ID, but you can't actually tell it to not ask for a password. Nor would you want to, because then anyone with the partner ID could access the machine. But what they were trying to do was just get access to the machine that they already own. And it's his machine. He paid for it. He built it. He installed the OS. And he just wants to get remote access to it. Well, in Simple Help, it's great because you log in to the technician console, which again, this is all self-hosted, so we're not talking about some cloud service, but you log into the technician console, and because you're authenticated in there, any machine that you have access to access, I guess, will show up in your list. And so they could have literally just downloaded the live run agent and had access to the machine for a little bit, or they could have visited the enrollment URL and permanently enrolled that machine to be accessed at any time unattended. Now let's get into the features of Simple Help itself. The management functionality is fantastic. From the dashboard, I can see every machine that is enrolled in our server. I can see disk usage. I can see RAM usage. I can see what OS is installed. I can see if the machine is online. I can see which user is logged in. I can see the last time it was on if the machine isn't currently on. I can see running services, installed programs. Now, if the machine is off, I can remotely power it up. If the machine is frozen, I can even drop to a CLI command and issue commands that the agent will run in the background. As long as the agent is running, even if the UI for Windows is locked up, even if the OS is locked up, as long as that agent hasn't locked up, which happens every once in a while, but not very often, I can still issue underlying commands to the underlying OS. So the amount of power and flexibility I have is absolutely insane. Now for the performance. The performance is so fantastic that we have a bench at Altispeed that customers put their computers on. And if you can picture this, right above the bench, there is a monitor that's about 4 feet above the actual bench. So the customer's computer sits there. Above that is the keyboard. Above that is the display. But that is not a very comfortable way to work. And so one of the things that we do is we actually, I'll just install the live agent, go to my office, sit down and work on it there. Manual controls let you can adjust the screen grab rate, you can adjust the color space, you can set those statically, you can record the session. So if we're subcontracting out, I can record everything they're doing for documentation purposes, as well as if we ever need to do it again. There's granular access control systems. So for example, Alan Jude has an account on our system, but he can only see machines that are tagged with the Jupiter Broadcasting tag. And it's not that I don't trust Alan, it's just nice when you have 500 machines enrolled to a system and he only needs to access one of those that he's not scrolling through all of those. So it's an absolutely fantastic system. I encourage you to check all of those out. Now, we had a lot of projects that we didn't get to, and maybe we'll save that for another episode. Next week, we're going to be live from Scale. We'll have Chris Fisher, owner and operator of Jupiter Broadcasting, on the program. Make sure to check out the Distro Elimination Challenge. We had a problem with their website last week, but we got that fixed, so that'll be updated as soon as I get off the air. AskNoahShow.com/elimination. Hey, guys, did you know this show is available as a downloadable podcast? That's right. To subscribe to the feed or download the show, visit podcast.asknoahshow.com. While you're on the Ask Noah dashboard, help us improve the show by going to asknoahshow.com/better. Huge thanks to Simon Quigley, our call screener. We're going to hand you off to Harm Reduction Hour coming up next on KEQQ 88.3 FM, Grand Forks.